Oye, mira, I'm Zacateco, I'm your decolonial social scientist and film guy, and this is Decolonizing Film, the place where nostalgia gets fact-checked. Watch this scene with me, and I'll be right back.
You is kind, you is smart, you is important, you is smart, you is kind, you is important. That's so good.
The Help turns 14 years, 11 months, and 14 days today.
What?
The film was directed by Tate Taylor and nominated for 3 Academy Awards to include Best Picture, Best Actress Viola Davis, Best Supporting Actress Octavia Spencer, and Jessica Chastain, with Octavia Spencer taking home the award.
Eat my shit. What'd you say? I said eat my shit.
Have you lost your mind?
No, ma'am, but you about to. 'Cause you just did.
Did what?
This film was packed with unbelievable talent, from Viola to Octavia to Jessica Chastain, Emma Stone, Bryce Howard, and Allison Janney. Because this is decolonizing film, we can't applaud Hollywood for telling partial truths. This film was a bit of a toss-up for me because it absolutely contributed to the conversation of powerful black women speaking truth during Jim Crow and the emotional labor of black women raising white children. But the actual narrative architecture is something we see happen all the time in Hollywood. Stories like this take black women's labor, pain, knowledge, grief, even their resistance, into material through which a white woman becomes enlightened, successful, or morally exceptional. That distinction is crucial because the problem isn't just that Skeeter helps tell their stories. The problem is that the film makes white recognition the mechanism through which black truth becomes culturally valuable. Again, none of this is surprising, being that the movie is an adaptation of the book The Help, written by Catherine Stockett in 2009. The book sparked much debate simply because she was born in 1969. She was raised in the 70s and 80s and not in Jim Crow itself. She said what inspired her to write this novel was a woman named Demetria McLaurin, who worked for her grandparents in the 50s, later raising her father and her uncle, and then raising her and her siblings. The ethical problem for the movie became even sharper when Aileen Cooper, a black domestic worker who worked for the author's brother-in-law and sister-in-law, said that Aileen, Viola Davis's character in the movie, resembled her life and her name. She ended up suing the author. The court dropped her case, but it wasn't because they determined that her claims were untrue. They did it because of the filing deadline. Let me be absolutely clear. The Help isn't a bad movie, and it's not bad because it depicts friendships across race. Solidarity asks, how can I stand with you? But this colonial storytelling is asking, how can I speak for you? And those are completely different things. Catherine Stockett was inspired by black women who shaped her childhood, and there's nothing inherently wrong with being transformed by relationships across difference. And I would argue that that's the foundation of justice itself. So the question is, what do you do with that relationship? Do you become the author of somebody else's experience, especially without their permission or their insight? Or do you create the conditions for them to author themselves? That's the difference between allyship and solidarity. One reason The Help continues to resonate is that it doesn't portray Skeeter as a villain. She shares the money, she risks her reputation, she genuinely cares about Aileen and Minnie. Those are meaningful acts of solidarity. But decolonization asks a deeper question than whether an individual behaved generously. It asks how systems determine who has access to publication, authorship, and cultural recognition. Good intentions and fair treatment can coexist with structural inequality. So the question I raise in this analysis is this: does acting ethically within an unequal system erase the unequal system itself? I'd say no, because even while sharing the money, the story structure still places Skeeter in the position of recognized author. The maids provide the lived experience and assume the greatest risks, while Skeeter has access to publishers, contracts, and the broader literary marketplace because of her social position. The film partially acknowledges that imbalance by having her share the proceeds, but it doesn't fundamentally redistribute narrative authority. I think for a story to be told just right in the context of this film, Skeeter would have fought like hell to make Aileen and Minnie authors, or at minimum co-authors, and ensure they shared in the success, the money, the interviews, the book tour, and the historical credit. Skeeter wouldn't simply leave for New York while Aileen walks away from the only work she has known. The women who created the book's truth would also gain material freedom for it. They'd be paid, they would be credited, they would speak on their own terms. They would decide what would happen next. That wouldn't just be reparative justice. That's freedom in a racial caste and capitalist society.